What is this video about? Well, it's about how to design a character. Well, what does that mean? Well, building a character isn't just one note. You don't just draw them and they exist with all their traits and all of that. Or you write them and all their designs are now in the ether. This video has good tips and tricks into making great character designs. So first, we are going to look at how others draw good characters and learn from them to see what works and what doesn't. Now, all of these characters' designs are from Pokemon and Hitsune Miku collaboration Voltage, in which there were 18 Mikus, one for each type, in which we will observe seeing how they show typing and personality. Chapter 1, Clothes. Clothes can show a lot about a character, what type they use, or who their main partner is. A lot can be learned by observing all these designs, but I'll be focusing on 3 of them, seeing what works and what doesn't. Flying. With the white leggings, which are like clouds, and I don't know what that thing is called. But the best part of her design is the clear arm warmers and the transparent short dress, which adds to the theme of flying. For Dragon, she's wearing a race car driver uniform, which references that Miraidon is her steed, and a cape on her right arm. And although her uniform is tonally dim, the cape adds some contrasting bright colors. For the grass type Miku, she's wearing a cheerleading uniform with the majority of green, but has some contrasting blue. The cheerleading uniform references her partner Pokemon Rillaboom, as it could be seen as the drum section of a marching band. Chapter 2, Accessories. Dark. Now dark, why would it be an example of accessories? There's nothing there. Well, that's true, except for one thing. She's holding an umbrella with a mic, which is a beautiful moment of character design. The dark type person has an umbrella, which is to hide themselves from the sunlight. But also because it's a Miku, it also has a mic, which is not an independent object, but is an add-on to the umbrella, which is so cool when you see a character that whenever you think of them, you think of their accessory. For Steel, she has 2 objects, a hat, which is probably a Sandagosa, and a Pokeflute, on the hat she has some words on it, or they're just spells, or they're just colored paper. There's also a 5-pointed star hanging from her hat, and for her Pokeflute, it is more metallically colored. Also, for some more accessory notes, you can look at shoes. What shoes are the characters wearing? How does this relate to them? And how does it show how they would act? Chapter 3, Details. What is the difference between details and accessories? Well, there isn't, but for details, those can apply to the things, and accessories are things that are wearable but aren't traditionally clothes. Bugs are small, so is she. But she also has beautiful butterfly wings, and her joints are more insect-like, with a nice French beret that points to her being more classical in her music tastes, and also her coat references that theme too. Fire. Fire-type users are usually hot-headed, and this Miku isn't beating those allegations. Her brain is probably melted from wearing that coat next to her fire types all the time. But her coat does reference her Pokemon Skeleturge, and under that coat there isn't much detail. But that doesn't matter. If there's a good coat, why would you have to put more detail under the coat? Ghost. As a ghost, she doesn't normally reside in our realm, so she has this computer error effect to show that she isn't really here in traditional Japanese corpse robes. And she has one of the best effects, transparent clothes. Normal. Sometimes it's cool to trick the audience. From her design, she looks more like a Smeargle user, but that is just its deceit, because her details are also like a tropical bird. But if you told me she was an artist, I would believe you. Chapter 4, Hair. In some cultures, hair signifies life, and although they're all based on Miku and will have 2 ponytails, you can still have unique designs for such a simple thing. But when you're making a character, do also think about their hair routine and how they would get it to look like that all the time. Electric. For her hair, it is like lightning bolts. There are yellow clips in it, and the ponytail is held with a little electric connector object. Her right ponytail is more of a normal color of hair and then fades into white. But her left ponytail is all cyan. Water. For water, her hair is really long, and as it is into pigtails, they eventually come back and cross into each other, where she has a blue connector spear. The hair is flowy like water and has a nice gap in it, which at some angles is more recognizable than others, but the gap shows character. Or Fairy. Fairy has her hair like cotton candy, with a mix of pink and light blue, in a swirl pattern. There are little chunks in her hair. Is that because her hair is such a mess? When she wakes up and something gets into it after she makes her hair, she just gives up and leaves it there? Or are they just part of the design? It's fun to ask those questions. Ground. In her hair there is a cool bandana, and her hair is like cactus, which both of those things tie into the theme of ground. This miku and flying are my favorites, and how they act in the music video Glorious Day is a great partnership. Chapter 5. Simplicity is the best complexity. Sometimes when drawing, you don't want to clutter up the page. In the next two examples, we will see great uses of less is better than more. Psychic. As the first miku design revealed, she is all you need in a trainer. A headband, keeping the headphones in place, a basic polo, a glove on one hand, a miniskirt, slip-on shoes. But even with these basics, you can get the whole character. As the fact that she has a shirt with a 1 on it. Why is there that 1? It's because it's miku. But other than that, why would they have it? Or why would she have a glove on one hand and not the other? Is it because she lost the other? Or is it to keep her psychic powers in check? And wireless headphones and a headband to keep them in place. That's just a good idea in general. With the angle the headphones are normally at, they would fall off all the time. So you have a headband keeping it in place. Fighting. Fighting miku has a very simple design, but doesn't mean it's bad. Not even. She has a cool hat she doesn't wear in most of the art, but it's really nice. Then she has a nice robe that goes off the left leg, a sleek white tie. Now why would the character wear a white tie other than that she's a miku? If we ignore that fact, it's a great storytelling device. Why is there a tie? Why is there an orange flare in her hair? And if the answer is, oh, she looks cool, 100% a good response. But sometimes you have to think about your character. Why would your characters wear this? Would you wear what your character's wearing? You can ignore that sometimes because sometimes it's good to have fun. But will you wear a bikini all the time? You probably wouldn't. But would you? Sometimes it's good. Will you wear this all the time like your trainer? Or what does your character wear under this? Leading into Chapter 6, Bare Necessities. Now let's strip away... No, not strip in that way. I mean, ignoring all the details and looking at the basics. In this section, we're going to be looking at 3 of the designs, which, although in the main design have overcoats, the illustrator also shows us what's under that. Ice. After she returns from work, she takes off her coat, and she still looks like a businesswoman, just less formal. It is important, even when the characters are wearing less, to still show their character. If you're making a beach episode, show more personal than, wow, it's a blue bikini. Poison. Taking off her lab coat, I would say, in this case, just makes her a little bland. Although it's my personal opinion. But both Ice and Rock both do lesser clothes better. Although, with everything in her design, is a lot messy. Although, shout out to her shoes, they're so fun, and makes you ask a lot of questions. But even for a boring character design, you can still make the character interesting, which part 2 dives more into. Rock. When the queen takes off her dress, she is still the queen, which is true for this design. Actually, the bare bones approach shows more personality than with her dress on, which is what this whole section is about. If your character takes off their clothes, there should be the same amount of information, or even more, under the first layer. And although body types are not covered, body types are an important part of character designs. Use the darkness test. If the character design is still recognizable in the dark, they're a good character design. And although there isn't different body types, all of these mikus are recognizable in the darkness. Chapter 7, Breaking the Characters Down. If you're making your characters into a comic or animation format, all these bells and whistles will probably slow you down. And so you must be able to break your characters down into simpler means. Which, let's look at Pokemon Showdown Sprite System. Here are all the 9 mikus that are in the Showdown Sprite format. And so when you're breaking down your characters, you might want to think, do you really want to draw 2 lines when it could be simplified into 1 line? And you must remember one thing, loss of meaning. What does that mean? You don't want your readers to be, wait, that thing the person was holding was a mic? They should be, oh, that person has a beach ball that looks like a dive ball. And sometimes you might want to go back and remove an element from the original character design because it just doesn't work. Just make sure you don't lose anything. And remember, hair and clothes are independent objects. So when you animate things, you shouldn't really just stiffly move the hair or clothes. Well, unless they have short hair or clothes that stick to their body. So where were those art tips? Well, I never said I would give you art tips. But a great way to becoming a better artist is to study good art. And that's what I did. And there's some things that you might have seen that I might not have talked about. You can still use them. They are great designs. Use them. And I'm not the upright authority on designing Pokemon trainers. Ad break! And with today's sponsorship, MulaNote, you can have a place to put all your character notes into one place. MulaNote is a great tool for organizing all your creative projects. If you're the kind of person who plots out everything just using sticky notes on a board, MulaNote is just a digital version with a lot of additional tools to help. MulaNote is a great way to do this. I haven't really used the platform, and it's not really good without the premium membership, but from how I see other people using it, it seems like a very useful software. MulaNote is available for free with no time limit. And if you use the code NOT SPONSORED, you can get 0% off the premium plan of MulaNote. Part 2, personality. Now, as I said in the introduction, you can't just make a character design without personality. So in this section, we will talk about what to do when writing a character, what you should look for, and what you should think about. Chapter 1, the Pokemon they use. Now answer this question, what is your favorite Pokemon and why? Type it into the comments. Can your trainer use that Pokemon, or is it not native to their region? So let's say in the case of Swinub, because I live in Kalos, I cannot get a Swinub. So either I go on a trip to Johto to find one, or it's just a Pokemon that I never get. Your Pokemon shouldn't start out with a lot of Pokemon. They should start out with less, so they can find more. And the stories of how they get a certain Pokemon are always important. Was it a tough battle, or did they get it from training, or did it just decide? And how did the Pokemon decide that? You can have a flashback episode to show how the Pokemon became their Pokemon and when they accepted them as a trainer. Does the trainer want to evolve their Pokemon or not? Can the trainer stop the evolution? Or are they a little dumb and cannot find an Everstone? Will the trainer accept the new form, or will they just put it to the back of the party and now they will not use that Pokemon? How do they use Pokemon? Do they use it as a partner, as a tool, or as a friend? All these are options, and there are even more options. Do they keep their Pokemon in their Pokeballs, or do they let them walk freely around them? What do their Pokemon think about them? If you made a story just for their Pokemon, what would the Pokemon think about their trainer? This shows a lot on the part of the trainer, but also the Pokemon. What Pokemon does your trainer fear? How knowledgeable of Pokemon are they? Are they a nerd, or are they like Ash? Stop asking the Pokédex. Ash is a bleepin' Pikachu. And some more questions you can ask about your trainer are here. Chapter 2, Clothes. If you're like, wait, were we not spending the first half of this video talking about clothes? Well, yes, although those are ideas of what to do, you should also think how the trainer's going to think. Why do they wear the clothes they wear? And then take an example of what will happen if their clothes get wet. Will they just keep them on and just suffer? Or will they quickly go inside a building and change? Or will they start stripping in public? What would they do if someone else's clothes get wet? Will they offer a coat or make the person suffer? And some more questions that you can ask about your trainer. Chapter 3, Food. No, I am not hungry right now, but food is a great part of a character's identity. What is their favorite food and why? What will they not eat and why? What have they not tried eating, and what have they tried eating? And if they're in a rush, what will they cook? All of those are great questions to ask about your Pokemon trainer. Chapter 4, Sleep. Why sleep? Why not sleep? That's what you should do anyway. You're scrolling YouTube at 1. Maybe you should go to sleep. But other than that, it shows a lot about the character. Do they talk in their sleep? Do they toss and turn? What do they dream about? When they sleep, how long? Do they take naps? Can they sleep in a tent, or can they only sleep inside a hotel? Can they sleep on the floor, or can they only sleep on a water mattress? All of these are for a small category on sleep. But even small things can show a lot about your character. Chapter 5. What is not and what is? What does your character lack? And don't say character development. That is a problem already. What norm does your character not subscribe to? This isn't important, but it makes the characters unique. It makes people love them. But also, how will they get an audience? What do they bring to the table? Why are they traveling with the people they travel with? How did this happen? If you ever need a flashback episode, this is free bait. Chapter 6. Actions speak more than words. But words will also be covered. How does your character sit down? Think for a second. If they sit down a normal person, fine. Then you're not really learning anything from this. But as you already know at this point, how your character sits down shows a lot about the personality of the character. Then next, how does your character walk? Walk cycles are an entire project in animation courses, and it shows a lot of personality of characters. Now think, how do they talk? Do they talk like a child? Or do they think, no one was born past 2020? Which is true. This is both speaking and thought things. How does your character think, and which way do they convey what they think to voice, or in the original title, to their actions? This is a great question to ask. This is also a great question to ask. Who is your character? Why is your character? Why are we asking all these weird questions in the 6th chapter of the 2nd part? And finally, what is your character's dream? Chapter 7, their dream. What motivates them? Who's their rival? Why? What makes them continue through the day? What would happen and would make their day? And then what would ruin them? What is your character's dream? What is your dream? But in the end, you should at least take one piece of advice from this video. You could take all of it or none of it. But thanks for watching.